Greetings everyone, Archimedes here, and welcome back to another brick-filled LEGO video. Today, we're going to be talking about simple ways to improve the inside rooms of our bases and fortresses. As in the other base design videos, we will talk about these concepts in three different styles of bases. Medieval castle, a modern fortress, and an explorational base. So let's get started, shall we? In particular today, we're going to be talking about ways to design a hospital or a medical wing, a storeroom or an arsenal, and a command center for our bases and fortresses. First, let's talk about a hospital design. I really couldn't come up with many good concepts for a medieval hospital, simply because there really wasn't such a thing in medieval times. The hospital concepts that I'll be showing you now, I think apply to any hospital, be it one in an explorational base, in a modern fortress, or just a hospital in and of itself. The first thing that any good hospital needs are some beds for the sick patients to lie on. You could do something fairly simple, just using 2x6 like this. You could make it a little more luxurious and make it 4x6 like this. If you wanted a more fancy bed, you could make one like I used in the Aquadrome, like this. This bed design is a little more complex. As you can see, it is two sideways building bricks like this, onto which I placed some plates on the sides and the top, with some jumper plates here, which you can use to fit the minifig's feet. This makes a nice more complex bed design, if you have the time and pieces. The next thing a hospital needs is some sort of way to transport the patients inside the hospital. If you have one of these fancy Lego stretchers, of course you could use one. But you can also make a simple one using these exhaust pipes on a plate like this. You can see here, minifigs can use the exhaust pipes as handles to help cart some ailing minifig around. If you want a more complex stretcher design, you can make something like this. As you can see, it's a 1x4 plate with two clip bricks right here and here, to which I attached these pipe pieces. Once again, the pipes along the side act as handles for the minifigs to hold their ailing patient. Also, the hospital will need some sort of view screens, something to type in the patient's condition in, or something like that. You could make those very simply using these angle control panel bricks. If you don't have these, even just normal angle slopes will work just as well. Finally, every hospital needs some kind of tools to work on the patients with. Unfortunately, LEGO doesn't make many good hospital tools, aside from maybe surgery. The best ones I could find were maybe a drill, a screwdriver, a hammer, and an O-wrench. You could probably put a chainsaw in a hospital too, but then I think they could only do surgeries and amputations. Now, this isn't really necessary, but it can be kind of fun, if there's a lot of extra space in your hospital, to make a little cart like this, with some tubes and supplies on it. You can have some driver carry it around through the base and transport important vital life functions such as bottled oxygen and extra plastic for surgery. These basic hospital concepts can spruce up any good base, if you put your mind to them, of course. Now, let's talk about a control center in our base, where the masterminds and leaders plan out their daring expeditions into the wild, or battle plans for the latest and greatest expedition. In my humble opinion, the first thing any good control room needs is a table in the middle for the leaders to meet and discuss what they need to do. I just made this out of some basic plates and threw a little radar screen panel on the top. You can then throw some chairs around the edges, and voila! A quaint little conference table. But we also need some other things in our explorational and modern bases. We'll need some view screens or panels to help read important information and make sure that we know weather conditions and whether a meteorite shower is imminent. These view screen panels are one of my favorite concepts in bases. As you can see, it's just a normal 1x6 plate, which I threw some grates and lights at the bottom here, which I attached with a sideways building piece onto some bricks. I just simply clip it on there, and voila. I think they look like some nice control panels. You also could throw down some similar angled control panel pieces like these, but that's up to you. So there you go. Very simple base designs. As before, control panels and a little table inside. Over here, some basic hospital design. But before we move on, I have a bonus tip for you all. As you can see in our little base castle design, I fit all of these little concepts into one 16x32 base plate. But although the two concepts are all fit onto one base plate, I think they look very separate from one another, even though that there isn't a wall dividing them. This is one of my favorite tricks for base building overall. As you can see, over here, I used these control panels. I set them off on an angle, kind of making a semi-border around the edge of the hospital area. I set them off at an angle, which really accentuates the look of dividing the space out. I also used colors. As you can see here, all the pieces over here are white, very light colored. Well, over here, there are a lot more dark colored pieces. This divides out the space very efficiently, without having to build up giant walls in between the two sections. Another concept I really like to use is setting pieces off at an angle, instead of the usual Lego 90-degree square angles. Here, you can see I have some control panels set off at an angle. These chairs here are off at 45 degrees from the normal shape of the room. This helps to break up the angular space of the normal Lego base, and I think adds some depth, makes your models look a little more professional. Now, in a medieval command center, there are a few less things that you can do with it. I mean, after all, there aren't really that many mechanical view screens or anything like that a medieval command center might have. Except for, perhaps, a wizard's crystal ball, which one could make just very simply using a minifig head. Once again, we have a conference table, at which leaders could discuss battle plans and movements. Perhaps you could place a map or something like that on the table, along with some weapons, maybe a candlestick for light, or maybe some food. If this command center were set in a throne room, for example, you could have the conference table slid up next to a throne, where a ruler would sit, like the very humble Mr. Arcimedes36 here. Once more, a very, very quick, kind of off-topic tip. Banners in a throne room look pretty awesome, if I do say so myself. You can build them very simply, just using stacked bricks like this. You can just make some sort of symbols or designs, which can add some depth to your castles. The other important facet that every good base or fortress has, at least in my opinion, is a storeroom of some sort. A place where vast racks of supplies are gathered, tools and weapons, walkie-talkies, knapsacks. Well, you get the picture. Anyways, I think that having a storeroom gives an extra level to models. Why? Well, it's not necessarily a room that most designers would expect to put in a model, but if you think about it, every place needs one. After all, you have a refrigerator to store your food. Where are the medieval knights going to store their apples and carrots and cooked turkeys? Where will the lunar explorers stash their spanners and their spacesuits? Also, having a room like this in a model makes it look very neat. Almost a little OCD, if you know what I mean. Neat racks of tools stacked with supplies, helmets and gear hung from various things in a very neat and orderly manner makes a kind of neatness to your model. Personally, I find this to be a very good room to have in your base. all the ideas in here are pretty simple, so I won't go into much detail. But I do want to quickly speak about one thing that is very useful in most storeroom type spaces. And that is these fence pieces here. They look like a pipe. They've got 4 spots for tools to stick. They're pretty easy to place in a model. I mean, you can just jam them down like this. But my favorite part about them is that you can very easily turn them and fit them to sit on an angle like this, which, as we talked about before, can break up the blockiness of your model. For today, we talked about simple ways to spruce up our base design in our hospitals, in our command centers, and in our arsenals or storerooms. As always, these ideas are just that, ideas. If they help you, if they're a springboard for your imagination, great. If not, well, that's just fine too. We all build in our own ways. But I really hoped you liked this video. I hope that the ideas were interesting or informative, or at least that it entertained you for a little while. If you liked this video, please comment, rate, or subscribe. If you didn't like this video, still, please comment and rate, and if you want, please subscribe. I want to know what you think would make this channel different and better. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I bid you all farewell. My name is Arcimedes36, and I'll see you next Sunday.